Thank you very much for joining us in this interesting panel. I am pleased and honored to moderate the panel entitled From Asia to Europe, Corridors, Wars, and Great Powers Competition. Whoa, what a title. We could fill a library with it. Organized by the New Strategy Center in partnership with the Heritage Foundation. Here we have great speakers, distinguished speakers. I will start from left to right. Mr. James CARAFANO. He's a senior counselor to the President and E.W. Richardson Fellow at the Heritage Foundation in the United States. He's a leading expert in the national security and foreign policy challenges. We all know Mr. CARAFANO. He's a great friend, and we met for many times in different conference and formats.
Technically, I'm on the far right.
Technically, okay. It depends on the perspective. Ambassador Fatih CEYLAN is the president of the Ankara Policy Center in Turkey, a leading think tank focused on foreign and security policy. His Excellency served in key posts including Ambassador to Sudan, Ambassador to NATO, and Deputy Undersecretary for Bilateral Affairs. Lieutenant General, retired Lieutenant General Dorin, Senior Advisor to the President of GRAMPET Group in Romania. He held key command and leadership roles, including Commander of the Joint Forces Command, General Ioan Emanuel Florescu, Commander of the Land Operational Component and Deputy Chief of the Land Forces Staff. General Ionita participated in international missions in Congo and Iraqi freedom. Mr. Kaush ARHA, non-resident senior fellow, Scowcroft Center for Strategy and Security at Atlantic Council. He served as senior advisor on strategic engagement at the United States Agency for International Development, USA, and brought some contributions to the US national security strategy. Mr. Anuar BURANBAYEV, I want to welcome him, partner at the Center for Research and Consulting in Kazakhstan. He has over 25 years of experience across the banking, oil and gas, oil field services, and mining sectors. Mr. BURANBAYEV expertise spans corporate management, public administration, spatial development, industrialization, economics, technology, and innovation. And last but not least, our distinguished guest, Mr. Tomoyuki YOSHIDA. Since October 2023, he has been Chief Executive Director of the Japan Institute of International Affairs. Mr. Yoshida served as counselor at the Japanese embassies in Thailand and the United States. He became director of the First North American Division and North American Affairs Bureau, and Director General in departments focusing on disarmament and Latin American affairs. By 2022, he took on significant role in humanitarian efforts as Director of the Refugees Assistance Headquarters. I would like to start with Ambassador CEYLAN from Turkey. We see that Turkey is actively promoting the Middle Corridor, also known as the Trans-Caspian route. And I will like to address a question. What are Ankara's efforts to guarantee the security of this corridor? How does Turkey interact with the Organization of Turkic States to strengthen its strategic position in Central Asia? Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First and foremost, I should like to thank New Strategy Center for organizing this important and timely event. And I am very pleased to be amongst the very distinct group of panelists. And the topic is important, dedicated to connectivity, certainly including the middle corridor. Now, I mean, I shall pursue a very brief deductive methodology, then shift to inductive approach, and close it on a hybrid, basis. I've been listening very carefully and attentively the deliberations that have been taking place since yesterday. Although there are different views on a number of issues and references to connectivity, there is one common denominator that's become visible, that the international system that we used to have has been upended. Starting, I would say, in 2008, upon Russian aggression on Georgia, continuing with Crimean occupation and annexation by Russia, and then February 2022. So it has definitely triggered a geopolitical and geostrategic competition at the highest level, particularly among major powers, namely the United States, Russia, and China. There are, some certain signs of cooperation at the international level, but competition or systemic rivalry definitely is the dominant theme of global politics. And we are passing through a very disturbing transitional period, I think one of the worst since World War II. So within that broader picture, connectivity in its widest definition certainly has come under the sharp focus of geopolitical and geostrategic rivalry. And now I shall pass to my inductive presentation. Under this broad rubric, let me share my remarks on Turkey's connectivity-related endeavors, launched much before China introduced its Belt and Road Initiative in 2013. One of the salient features of Turkish foreign policy was to initiate a regional integration immediately after the end of the Cold War. In 1992, the launching of Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization, for instance, was an important step in that direction. And between this period, the finalization of Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline, the signing of Traseka agreement, that's International Transport Corridor, Europe, Caucasus, Asia, and let me now pass to the second, sorry. Same year, in 1998. And then the initiation of a Black Sea Ring Corridor in 2003 within the Black Sea Economic Cooperation, followed by Turkey's endeavors to introduce a cooperative atmosphere in the Black Sea, also in terms of maritime security. These are all, I would say, and it's not an ambitious observation, upon Turkey's initiative, trying to kind of generate peace, stability, and prosperity, starting from our region. Now the latest version of this effort is what we now call Trans-Caspian International Transport Route, TITR. We call it Middle Corridor since 2010. We started developing this architecture of connectivity, starting from Central Asia, passing through South Caucasus, Turkey, and Europe.
Yeah, Ambassador, please go to your key
okay.
ideas, because we recorded some delay. And, yes, we have to.
Okay, I shall be very brief.
Thank you very much.
This is what you see, which originated in 2010. Let me go to the next level. I think I participated in a 3Cs initiative conference in Warsaw like 2 weeks ago. What I am saying is that the thrust and the architecture of the middle corridor is not in competition with the 3C initiative of the EU. On the contrary, it does complement it. That's what I would say. And again, for instance, the EU's interest in this infrastructure project had been manifested in Samarkand at the beginning of April. That is good because we were not able to promote the EU interest when we started this project, this architecture of connectivity back in 2010. But I would be remiss if I were not to mention another project here. That's the Türkiye-Iraq Development Road launched by Iraq in 2017. Now it's also proceeding rapidly, I would say. The Gulf is also interested in that project. So what I would suggest is that I think we should see these projects like 3CI, the Middle Corridor, and its connection to the Arabian or Persian Gulf should not be seen in a competitive mode. They should complement each other, interlocking projects, and that's very important. So if we have the courage and the vision to bring together all these projects, I think all of us, Europeans, Caucasians, and Central Asian states, they will benefit from that. But I should underline that the Middle Corridor is not designed as a supplement to Belt and Road. On the contrary, what we had in our mind, and we still have it, is that by combining all these projects, and that would be the kind of the ultimate picture, we would be in a position of strength to mitigate the Russian influence and the growing Chinese influence in this vast geography. So what I'm proposing finally is to bring together the 3 CIs with another 3 or 4 seas, the Caspian Sea, okay, in the Black Sea it overlaps, the Mediterranean and the Persian Gulf or Arabian Gulf over there.
Thank you.
So that's what I would put. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite General Ionita to deliver his presentation.
No.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I am very proud that I am in front of you, and I try to speak a few minutes about the Middle Corridor on behalf of GRAMPET Group, Romanian GRAMPET Group. It's a logic my next intervention because the topics is the same, and I'm happy that Ambassador, I'm actually, Your Excellency, I'm very happy that you have a common targets. First of all, I try to answer the questions why GRAMPET, because GRAMPET, Romania is first multinational enterprise and the largest private freight rail transport in Central and South European, Eastern European, with operation in 10 countries, 20 integrated companies, almost 8,000 employers. GRAMPET continue to invest in strategical connectivity and infrastructure. The figures are very concludent, and is for us very important to our strategical and we are very focused on this way, means middle corridor. In fact, our background cover 5 main pillars. Of course, regarding the railway, and this one are movement, logistic, production, IT, and energy. Is very important for also to believe in our targets. It's our belief is that you can transforming challenges into opportunities. The GRAMPET group is the first European company that joined the Transcarpathian International Transport Route, and this is the reason which are focused on the middle connection corridors. In this context, in the context of strategic implication, thus the new economical option and global great power competition, our focus, as I say, is the middle corridor, and is, in our opinion, it's a vital option to develop together. Sorry. To develop this this opportunity. We have taken into account numerous borders crossing, transshipments between modes and operational inefficient, and in this context, according with the World Bank's 2023 study, the middle corridors faces significant constraints in terms of rail traffic, but this is, as I say, a challenge for us. We discussed about targets like unified tariffs and transit, and lease in the railway and maritime connection. Turkey, but in this club of country which are part of this corridor, of course, Turkey is a country with other perspective, and it's one of the good example for us. From our perspective, currently the corridor offers 3 optional entry, and like the first one is travels Turkey, Bulgaria, and Serbia heading into Central Europe. The second one route starts from Georgian ports and move through Romania and Bulgaria before reaching Ukraine, and the third route via Ukraine is currently inaccessible due to the current ongoing war. Corridor 4 is part of middle corridor, and we have a solution to develop this corridor, like establish regular daily maritime connection, develop consist high quality intermodal transport, coordinate investment in infrastructure. Of course, my intervention is focused on the business footprint, but middle corridor continue to be our main concern at the regional level. We are deeply sure that rebuilding a network railway show real opportunity to dual transport, and we discussed about civil, why not military transports. If you have some second at the end of the intervention, I can present you a few solutions as regarding the railway solidarity lanes. but if you have enough time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your insights and for your presentation. Mr. Buranbayev, you are welcome to address your words. Kazakhstan has become vital for routes that bypass Russia. What infrastructure investments are necessary for the Trans-Caspian route to function as a viable trade and resource provider for Europe?
Thank you for the opportunity to contribute some thoughts to this important discussion. Yes, we talk a lot about the middle corridor. However, current situation is that the middle corridor has some obstacles. First of all, it is undeveloped infrastructure. We need a lot of massive development to railways. We need a lot of investment to Aktau port and Kurik port. And if you want to use this middle corridor for oil export, we need to build a new pipeline from Yeskine to Kurik. It's a lot of money, and we are looking for this investment from around the world. You know that there are like three global competitors in our three global projects compete in our territory. One is Chinese BRI. It is, beyond is the most successful because Chinese invest heavily in the physical infrastructure. And before the war, the new Eurasian One Bridge was very successful. It's new Eurasian One Bridge is China, through Kazakhstan, through Russia, through Belarus, connected to Poland and then to Germany. It works very good, but after the war, sanction was extended, and now the turnover through this corridor fall dramatically, 40%. But it is opportunity for middle corridor for us. But as I say, we need a lot of investment to develop it. Unfortunately, from my point of view, European project, European Gateway, mostly concentrate on the some soft infrastructure, standards, procedures, etc. But before we decide the physical bottleneck, I don't think that it will be successful. But right now we have a very big national project in order to develop physical infrastructure, which I believe will help us balance our roads through Russia. It's not about to build a complete bypass of Russia, but we need to balance the situation because, you know, as I said on Wednesday, our main product and our fundament of our prosperity is oil, and 60% of our oil export through the Caspian Pipeline Consortium. Unfortunately, it was, as was mentioned in 2006, Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan initiatives based on oil from Kashagan. However, the price is too high.
Thank you very much. Mr. Yoshida, our next speaker, how does Japan perceive the connection between the free and open Indo-Pacific strategy and the Eurasian corridors, and what role Japan can assume in Central Asia and in the Black Sea?
Okay, thank you very much for having us and the kind introduction to me. Well, the emerging trade and the infrastructure corridors are creating a new alternative to connect between Asia and Europe. The alternative to circumvent the traditional route across Russia, their Middle East, Hormuz Strait and the Red Sea, there are geopolitical tensions over there. So if we overcome the several weak points and the bottlenecks that a colleague of the Kazakhstan elaborated, that would offer shorter travel time, efficiency, and reshape the new trade dynamics. There may be some the major alternatives, the central corridor and the northern corridor, but it's, I mean that the Arctic Ocean, but I don't go into the detail. And otherwise, the southern corridor connecting India, Middle East, and Europe, typically promoted by India under the initiative IMEC. I would focus upon the central corridor, right? And the Central Asia borders Russia and China. And former Soviet republics, most of them. After the independence 30 years ago, still there is a sphere of influence from the perspective of Russia, but emergingly, China's influence over the region is increasing, particularly as an economic giant. And on the other hand, we understand that their countries in the Central Asia and the Caucasus are trying to diversify their external relations beyond Russia and China to overreach to Europe, United States, as well as the middle parts like Turkey, Japan, and Korea. So there is an entanglement of the great powers in this region. I would like to touch upon briefly about China's Belt and Road Initiative. Well, Central Asia is regarded as the most important logistical critical point in China's flagship policy, Belt and Road Initiative. While it is no longer a massive investment in the infrastructure building due to China's economic slump, but still they are moving forward to focus upon this region as a revival of the Silk Road, which has been the ancient route for China many years, many centuries. On the other hand, I would like to point out the fact that China's major logistical bases are currently located and concentrated in the coastal area facing the Pacific Ocean. With the future geopolitical tension, particularly with the United States, or their ambition over the Taiwan, there may be some related intention to build alternative routes to secure their energy and food supply lane in the case of the contingency. And finally, I would like to briefly touch upon the several bottlenecks we need to overcome. Most of them have already elaborated by my colleague here. I would just briefly go on the topics only. The problem, the break in gauge. In the case of the train, different gauges are used across the countries in the region. So the wide standard gauge and wide gauge and meter gauge. So we need to change, transship the containers, thereby making the costs and the time. And infrastructure development, logistical facilities should be modernized, and huge investment of the financial matter should be necessary. And customs and regulations should be harmonized. All these bottlenecks should be overcome in order to move forward this idea. I stop here.
Thank you very much. Dr. CARAFANO, Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine was aimed to reversing the transatlanticism and discrediting the US capacity to defend Europe. Obviously, he failed, at least until now. While Europe seems to be stuck in the traditional long telegram paradigm, the US is heading toward the longer telegram to counterbalance China's ambition. I have two questions. What are the strategic implications of trade and infrastructure corridors linking Asia and Europe in the context of global great power competition? And the second question is, how do initiatives like China's Belt and Road, EU's Global Gateway, the Middle Corridor, compete, or some of them complement each other in shaping connectivity across Eurasia?
You can have two questions, but I only have one answer. And the answer is, why does America care at all? Because if you look at the maps, we're not on any of them. And I think the answer to your questions are rooted in a deep geostrategic truth. I think most people get the current state of global competition exactly wrong. Some people say we're headed for Cold War 2.0. That's nonsense. No power in the world today, none, not even the United States, has the capacity and the resources to create a hard sphere of influence. We can't do it. The Japanese, you guys could never do it. The Chinese can't do it. Certainly the Russians can't do it. That is just not the future. Nobody's going to recreate an imperial empire like the British Empire or the Russian Empire. This is just not in the cards in today's global politics. So what are the realistic alternatives? And they're not, be a kind of be an isolationist or be a mini imperialist, least of all for the United States. Anybody who thinks that Donald Trump's an isolationist should ask the Houthis. They might have a different view. So that's just not a practical alternative. And this idea of mini imperialism of the United States is going to take over Greenland or Canada or this is nonsense. And as far as I check, we don't have an American flag in those places either, except at the embassies. So what is the practical alternative? And it was really demonstrated and discussed here. It's about this notion of connecting free and open spaces. Because look, we heard a lot about the virtues of having a viable middle corridor and connecting Central Asia and the South Caucasus to the global trade. And that's exactly right. But we have these other corridors as well. And when you connect them all together, what you've achieved is how we're going to conduct global affairs after globalization. And I believe that nobody understands this actually better than President Trump. And if you actually unpack the elements of his foreign policy, it really reflects many of this foundational truth. Because free and open spaces, what you want to call them, corridors or whatever, they give you innovation, they give you new sources of prosperity, they enable countries which for centuries, in some cases, haven't had an opportunity to determine their own future. They create partners who want to invest in the infrastructure and also invest in the security of the infrastructure. So it is essentially rewriting of the entire wiring system, the entire blood system of the world. And the other added benefit of this is that the more you build these corridors out, the more you rob spaces for malicious actors to meddle and expand and influence. And so from the US perspective, this is an ideal solution for a nation that is a global power with global interests and global responsibilities. This is a natural and evolutionary solution as a way to connect with the rest of the globe. So I think we will find in the years ahead, the United States is the biggest cheerleader, partner, and participant in supporting these projects. Thanks.
Thank you. We have an issue of the 52nd Meridian Challenge. It's a line of longitude that runs from the Barents Sea, Russia, the Caspian Sea, Iran, the Persian Gulf, down to Yemen and the Red Sea. And now I will address two questions to Kaush ARHA. How can regional and global actors address logistical bottlenecks, infrastructural vulnerabilities, and security risks in cross-continental supply chains? And the second would refer to Crimea. Could Russian control Crimea cut off American and European access to Central Asia while benefiting China? What impact would a ceasefire in Ukraine have on connectivity projects linking Europe to Asia through the Black Sea?
Well, thanks. I think you better put the America on the maps, otherwise Jim will get mad and shout even harder, so you better do that. No, thanks. So the short answer is yes, so goes Crimea, so goes Black Sea, so goes the access to Eurasia or Central Asia. So yes, I think that's a simple answer. It's fantastic to be on this particular stage and you see the main actors and the enthusiasm of Central Asia and Caucasus and Europe, this connectivity of Central Asia, Caucasus, Europe economic corridor, I think it's pretty palpable for the actors who are in it. It faces a lot of challenges, not the least of it is having a lot of confusing maps, which you completely overwhelm you and you don't know which way I'm looking at things one way or the other. Second, it has always been an aspirational corridor. So when you put a lot of aspirational maps, you get them even more overwhelmed. You say, I don't know how that's going to go from, Pakistan down in Afghanistan and Iran and up there. May happen, I don't know. So as we go through this particular exercise, I think there are three important variables to be discussing in centers like this. One, it is a corridor that is absolutely needed both for political, economic, and security regions for Central Asia, for Indo-Pacific, for Europe, for Caucasus. And that's the main interest for America as articulated by Jim on linking free and open spaces. Economically, it has three very important challenges, compared both to the Trans-Siberian network that they have and something that's going to come on the south. And those are, one, just long distances and the need for having physical infrastructure. Get the money for it. Can you invest the money and recoup it? If we did, we would have done it by now. Maybe the critical minerals will provide an important impetus to get more infrastructure in Central Asia. We hope so. It'd be nice to look at it. That may not be in your control. What is in your control is how long does it take in the operational and cross-border modalities. At this moment, not only the physical distances are long, but the operational time in these places is also longer than it is in competing corridors. So that's a really important part, especially on Black Sea or on Romanian side. Japan is very good at it. It has helped a lot of Central Asian countries doing cross-border trade and tariff mechanisms and modalities. And the third issue is this security that you referred to in Crimea. So if Crimea goes and it becomes basically a Russian lake of sorts, then you got two issues. One, it'll be a pretty direct sort of contest, conflict, adversarial relationship between Turkey and Russia going back to the history, given that Crimea goes back to Russia. But more importantly, it will make the land routes over Turkey the main way to get through them. So in a way also it elevates the road and rail networks that you'll see across Turkey from cars that were the maps on it. So it's a fascinating element as we go forward on this. And the question here is, the other question you asked, whether they're competing or complementary. The corridors, if you lead with economic stuff, they tend to be quite complementary. So the question then is, certainly there's nothing, Global Gateway right now, EU has done a C5+1, so it is very actively involved. One could even argue that at this moment, EU is more actively involved in Central Asia than our present administration. So it is very complementary, the Central Asia, Caucasus, Europe corridor. Where the Belt and Road is, the only issue there is there an economic rationale for what China is doing, or is it a strategic rationale for China's benefit or the regional benefit? And those are not broad statements. You have to look them statement by statement, corridor by corridor. And I think you got to look at that particular angle. Our time is running short, but I would like to say that when we put maps out there, we got not to overwhelm people and to say, here is where, this is what's going, this is how I can help, this is how I can make sure. So like Venice in next 2 years is not going to be a port because of so they'll have a choice to either save Venice or have the port. So having Venice as your terminal, and it may not be there in a year or two. So we got to look at kind of more fact-based issues when we come to deal with this. Time is short, but I think what you get out of it is a tremendous energy and interest, both economic and security, in the Central Asia, Caucasus, Europe corridor. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. We are running out of time, but I take the risk to address one more question to our distinguished speakers from Turkey and Kazakhstan. How has the war in Ukraine changed your country's strategic calculations regarding transport corridors? And how do you foresee their evolution in different end of conflict scenarios?
Thank you. The recent developments, like you mentioned, the occupation and annexation of Crimea and the ongoing Russian aggression, of course, this has made the strategic importance of the Middle Corridor in complementarity with the 3 CSI and also the IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe corridor. That's why I'm trying to emphasize the clear need for these projects, for these endeavors to complement each other. This is necessary for the resilience of Europe and for the resilience of supply and value chains. So it's become more important than ever. One final remark, we have been working on this since 2013, when the connectivity issue was brought by Türkiye to the attention of the Organization of Turkic States. I'm talking about 2013, before the announcement of China's Belt and Road Initiative. So we have to work on it. And I think it's in the geopolitical and geostrategic interest of all stakeholders, be it in Europe, in Turkey, in South Caucasus, and in Central Asia, to proceed in that direction.
And before the first invasion of Ukraine. So it predates that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm talking about 2010. That's when we introduced this design and then took it to the attention of the Organization of Turkic States in Azerbaijan. And there are many critical components of this corridor in place. Kazakhstan, for instance, you have Aktau, right? You have plans for Kurik to widen the harbor over there at the Caspian Sea. This is not simply a design comprising solely railroads or land routes or seaports. It's a holistic design on a 360-degree approach. And it is a design that mitigates, that is intended to mitigate the Russian influence in South Caucasus, in Central Asia, and hedging against the growing Chinese influence. So I think we should embrace it rather than criticizing it. And I'm confident that the Trans-Siberian route that my Kazakh colleague mentioned will be dysfunctional for a long period to come. But I mean, the volume of trade has tremendously decreased. And this presents new opportunities for the Middle Corridor stakeholders, for the 3CI stakeholders, and also, why not, giving traction as the state of things, state of affairs in the Middle East, as far as they allow, further traction to IMEC. Don't forget, the Middle East is also in tumult. Things are not settled yet over there.
You're right.
So we should concentrate for the time being on places where things are relatively stable. That's what I would propose, without denying the importance of the prospects offered by IMEC. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our speaker from...
Okay.
Yes, please.
If you make a little bit wider view on the situation, we need to understand, I will talk about Kazakhstan. The situation started to be changed after 2007 in Munich, then 2014 Russian invasion in Crimea. And in 2014, Kazakhstan became a part of one economic union with Russia and Belarus. And also, we are in a military treaty with Russia. But even with this, we still take a neutral position. It's a very, very important thing for us. Because why I'm talking about this? Because right now, trade and economic corridor is not about just trade. It's about how global powers project their geopolitical power to the country. You understand it better than me. For us, I know that Europe thinks that is the main part of the globe, but the world starts to be fragmented, and we start to turn to the Asia. Rise of China as a new powerhouse changed our trade flow. Right now, China became our #1 trade partner. They replaced Russia. And if we will talk about the rare materials, energy, etc., for us, it's easier to make turn to the Asian market than try to spend a lot of time and money to approach Europe. It is why we also ask the G7 and the European Union, you really need this middle corridor or not?
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to take questions from the public, from the audience. If we'll summarize somehow our topic, it's clear that there is a need to harmonize European priorities aimed at countering Russia with American efforts focused on addressing the global challenge posed by China. And here we have tension points or some contradictions that will be solved somehow. The Black Sea remains a critical node for the corridors that will connect Europe to Asia. And here is an important point. The truce that leaves Crimea under Russian control has the potential to cut off Western access to Central Asia. At the same time, favoring China and Russia over the US and the EU. And here, I guess, Georgia is an example of how a pivotal country can be geopolitically captured, mainly through unconventional means. Also, the issue of Crimea and the territorial integrity of Ukraine might create debate around this issue, might create transatlantic divergences if the EU and the US have different positions. It might be necessary to broaden the concept of security to encompass transcontinental critical infrastructure. And maybe a future topic could address the need for NATO partnerships with non-member countries along the corridor. It might be an invitation to reflect to this idea. Countries such as Turkey and Kazakhstan are key players. Also, Romania is on the route, having an increased role in the durability of the middle corridor and the future middle corridor. And the future of Eurasian connectivity relies on the West's capacity to coordinate a unified competitive strategy in Central Asia, adapting to the new post-war Ukraine geopolitical reality, which we'll see what it will look like. So I will also add one idea related to what Dr. CARAFANO said earlier. I think we are witnessing a partial transition from economic globalization to secure regionalization, where security prioritizes economic efficiency. And this shift might might reshape somehow global trade and establish a new economic geography based on political alliances rather than comparative advantages. I want to announce you that the next open session entitled US and NATO Stronger Together or Farewell Meeting will take place in this chamber, Le Diplomat, at 15:50. However, before that, we invite you to lunch and let's give our speakers a round of applause. Thank you very much.